Good afternoon, everyone. Today, I wanted to talk about the evolution of marketing. Earlier this week, I had two separate calls where I was talking about where marketing was 5, 10 years ago, what happened in 2020, and where are we now? And so I thought if those conversations were they were really kind of passionate, I thought we should talk about it today. So before 2020, we all know marketing was cast that huge net with hopes of getting the leads and the sales we wanted. And because the marketplace wasn't that crowded, that type of approach worked. It was great. It was easy. And businesses went along with that. We talked about ourselves. We talked about our equipment. We talked about our companies, and we just threw it out there for people. And then they would click on the call to action. They would become a lead, and then they would become a customer. But then 2020 came, and we were hit with a lot of things. COVID, digital transformation. There were a lot of things that all of a sudden we needed to change our approach. Now, B2B brands were always very stoic. We were always here. You didn't talk about your personal life. You didn't try to make personal connections. You were here. You talked about your company. You talked about your equipment. But when COVID hit, I think that's when things really started to change for the better for B2B brands, because now all of a sudden, we're doing Zoom calls in each other's homes. We're seeing family dogs. We're hearing the doorbell ring. We're starting to discuss more personal things in the B2B space. And what happened with those team meetings, client calls, started to ooze right into the marketing campaigns, and you started to see which campaigns were more effective. And what we saw is those stoic B2B marketing walls needed to break down. They needed to break down because now you had more people out in the marketplace, more people putting out content, more webinars being offered. And how are you as a brand going to stand out? Well, the only way to stand out is if you make your brand unique. And right now, all of us, our brands are unique. We're a 43-year-old B2B marketing agency. You're probably saying, so what, Donna? There's a ton of B2B marketing agencies out there. And you're right, there are. But how many of them are 43 years old, family-owned, woman-owned, and dealing predominantly in the industrial space? You see, that takes this big whole group, shrinks it, shrinks it, shrinks it. And so now you're dealing with this smaller segment. And what happens then is you can really concentrate all your efforts on that group. So, like I said, 2020 came, those stoic walls had to break down. Digitalization and content became extremely important, but it also started to crowd the marketplace. So companies needed to start segmenting, first with their house list. Take your house list, look to see what people are buying. How often do they buy from you? And of course, it's probably that 80-20 principle, that 80% of your sales come from 20% of your database. Take that 20%, learn as much as possible about that 20%. I mean, not just demographics like title and industry, company size. I mean, as much as possible. Like, what type of content do they like to read? Where do they like to read? Do they like to read things in print? Do they like to read things on LinkedIn? Do they social post? Do they follow? Do they comment? All that information helps you, and you need to dive deep into getting that information. You go to industry-specific trade shows, which I'm a big proponent of, because you can be on those trade show floors talking to attendees, talking to exhibitors, eavesdropping on other people's conversation, and you start to hear what is top of mind for your audience. Because, like I said, years ago, we all talked about ourselves, our companies, our equipment, our brand. No, now everything has shifted to your customer, your prospect. What are their challenges? What are their goals? And you need to create your content to help them. Give, give, give. You need to be giving out as much information as possible to help these companies grow. And that comes only when you segment that information and you start to create those nice personalized messages. So think about it. If you take your whole big database, let's say, okay, say again, it's a B2B marketing agency, but you deal with all types of companies. You've got financial, you've got tech, you've got some industrial. You see, if you put those three into separate pools, you can now talk about things differently. So when you're talking about an industrial pool, you can address some of their challenges, labor shortages, supply chain. You go to their industry specific events like Fab Tech, metal forming, the PMA event. You go to those events, you see what's being talked about, and then you make sure that you give content that can help those people. When you do that, when you create those campaigns that speak directly to the individual, they're going to respond. And maybe they're not going to respond right when you send it out, but you're working on the branding and you have to have confidence in this. I'm right now, I'm on kind of a soapbox about companies, put some faith in having confidence in what you're doing is accurate. If you know you're going and using a good quality external list from an industry publisher, and you know that publication speaks directly to your audience, excuse me, you've got to have confidence that your message is getting out there to them. Maybe they can't buy that piece of equipment now, but if you continue to put out good, valuable content to them, offering them information, when they are ready, they are going to buy from you. So you've got to segment it, you've got to make it personalized, and you've got to speak directly to them. But now marketing, it takes a lot of time and effort up front to do marketing. And I know people are impatient. I know sometimes upper management, they don't want to hear that. They want it out now. But be patient. Do your research to get it organized. There's a lot of different new technologies out there that can help you. We have generative AI out there, which I like to refer to as my personal assistant that I have here 24/7, 365 days a year. Yes, there are warnings. You can't just take everything your assistant gives you and push it out there. Think about it. If you hired an individual, brand new individual to your team, they wrote a blog, they put together an email, they put together a list, would you just say, okay, go ahead? Or would you take the time, excuse me, would you take the time to review it, give your assistant feedback, tell them to fix it, to give you another revision, and come back? That is the same when you're dealing with generative AI. You have to work with them, but what they give you is just a baseline. It's just an outline. It still comes back to you forming it into a piece of content that sounds like your brand, that sounds like you. You have to make it sound unique, because otherwise you're, again, out there just competing with everyone on the same level, because you're all just regurgitating this generated content, which is not going to bring you the leads and the sales you need to grow. So be careful, but leverage these new technologies. Also, right now, a lot of companies are looking for project management platforms, because their teams are all over the place. It's no longer where your team is in one big office. You can have meetings around the conference table. You can go up to their desk and talk to them. It's not like that anymore in the workforce. So you need a good platform to keep your team together. In order to do that also, yes, you need to get some good platforms, but also you've got to make sure that your team that you have in-house knows your mission, knows your why, knows your goals. And you stress this to them all the time. They see this, it's visible. Maybe you've got it posted on the bottom of everyone's emails. Maybe you say it at the beginning of all your monthly meetings. You have to reinforce this with your team over and over and over, because this is what keeps your team going in one direction. They're not going to go off here, here, and here. And then if they understand that you're no longer talking about yourselves, you're here to help, you're here to give. You want to nurture these people into knowing your brand, trusting your brand, and building deep relationships with them. Marketing has changed, but I honestly feel for B2B brands, it has changed for the better. You're going to find you're going to do a lot of work up front with the research, getting things organized, setting up that strategy, but it's going to pay off in the end. You're going to be speaking to the right audiences. You're going to be able to be giving them valuable content, not just this generic content, which that won't work anymore. It's way too crowded out there. People are way too busy. So you've got to take the time to do it. Marketing has changed, and I will say it, build it and they will come. Take the time, create those strategies, change your marketing, realize marketing has changed, but it has changed for the better. If you have any questions about this topic, please feel free to reach out to me at dpeterson@worldinnovators.com. Also, you can leave any comments below. I will definitely answer them, because I would love this to be more of a collaborative setting about where have you seen marketing? What are the big changes you've seen over the years? And how can we all evolve together to be more successful at what we do? Because as marketers, we know sometimes we have very small teams, but we're asked to do a lot. And so that's where we need to help each other so we can succeed into the future. Have a great day, and I look forward to seeing you next Thursday on our LinkedIn Live.